right, welcome to Healthy and Active in the Couve. I am Nick Medlock. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, and with me as always is Dr. Trent Corey, who is a doctor of physical therapy. And today is an exciting day because we're going to talk about recovery, injury, and should you use ice, should you use NSAIDs like ibuprofen, should you use some kind of other therapy. And for me as a coach, I've been trained in a lot of different mentalities and modalities. Do you use ice? Well, we've been forever taught RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. The new thing in the industry is MEAT, which is, I'll look up the acronym, it's movement, exercise, and then analgesics and treatment. And then what I have been using my whole life because of a certain chiropractor that helped me through injuries is contrast therapy, which is going between cold to get rid of the pain and then moist heat to kind of reintroduce that blood flow for healing effects. And that's for me, anecdotally, has helped the most for my body. And there's a lot of different research that is anecdotal, and then there's a research that's objective. And that's what I wanted to talk about today with Dr. Trent Corey is what should we do as far as recovery from injury, either injury that we get, sports injury, or even just the injury that we get for the micro tears in our muscles. So I will let you have at it.
Yeah, definitely, Nick. There's a lot of things that are coming into view. Like you said, the guy who made up the RICE protocol, he actually refuted the need for ice to actually be a part of it. The thing is that ice is very common and cheap to apply. And then actually when you have it applied to the body, it feels good. So you decrease your pain and you can decrease swelling. And there's nothing too wrong with some of those things, but actually what you said, the MEAT protocol, there's also something out there called Peace and Love. Maybe you've heard of this one too. They're just kind of more like it's called like protection. And then I actually have it here on my screen here. Actually, I'll share my screen. We'll do a little screen share. So we'll just share the screen here. Hopefully you can see that, but basically protection, elevation, avoid anti-inflammatories, compress, education. It's so important to know what's going on in your body. And then we're talking about the love part, load, optimism, vascularization, and exercise. So thinking about how to get blood flow to the area, get junk out of the body, get the groceries in and the garbage out, right? So make sure that the body's getting the healthy things that it needs. So hopefully that's a helpful thing. I'll unshare my screen, but I just wanted to show you that real quick, that there's different changes in notions of what if you had an injury maybe 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, you might have been just told to just ice and rest, and that might be about it. But now we know that the tissues actually need to be moved and loaded and help get blood flow to the area. But especially like for an injury like an Achilles or a patellar tendinopathy or something with especially tendon injuries, you need to load it. So that L part of love, you need to load the tissue and you need to load it the right way. You don't want to overdo it, right? So sometimes my runners, I got to calm back their distance or their speed or both. And sometimes we need to cross train, but we do want them moving. So if I can get them on an elliptical instead of running, that helps them become, they're loading the tissues of their body, but they're not overloading it. So it's kind of like Goldilocks zone where you're stimulating the tissue, but you're not irritating it. And that helps the body build versus kind of resting it, letting it shunt off circulation, let it calm down. Actually, tissues become weaker over time, and that's not going to be productive. Right. So we want to make sure we rehab people in the right way, encouraging movement as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, in studying some of these things over the past few years, decades actually, but this particular topic, when I heard that ice was a bad thing, not necessarily bad, but it's not the ideal. But it's always helped me a lot. And I think the reason where there's some confusion on my end is I ice a little bit to get rid of the pain, and then moist heat, and then I move and I load and I do all these other. So it's kind of like a combination of all these different studies. And in talking about this week, I looked more into like the types of research that's been done on it, and even on my favorite one, that contrast therapy. The modality of the study makes a huge difference because they're not having a particular set of type of temperature, type of injury, and so the modality of the study isn't significant enough to bring actual true results. There needs to be more and more studies in this. So, my point being is like we're told all of these different things as far as what to do and what not to do, and so I think at the end of the day we really need to have boots on the ground, kind of like people in your position who know the studies, but then also can go, this is what I'm seeing with my patients and how they recover.
Totally right. And I think, to say that ice is bad, it's not like exactly all true either, right? But we have to be aware of, like, some people they'll just ice it all the time, right? Like if you have
Right.
a rough shoulder, a rough ankle or something, and they're just icing it constantly, like for 15, 20 minutes. And then they're doing it regularly throughout the day. That is not okay, because that's
Yeah.
going to create this pool of like inflammation. You're basically constricting all the blood vessels, and all the goodies trying to get in can't get in. All the junk kind of stays in there. You kind of create this inflammatory stew, or like this irritation soup that your body's stewing in, where you actually need fresh healing blood. And so that's kind of where I kind of tell people about, if you need to do it, like, I'll still tell people, if you have an acutely inflamed area, you put some ice on it, it definitely feels better. And then
Yeah.
later on, the body's going to go back to a normal temperature and the blood will rush back in. So it does still happen. That's kind of where that contrast thing happens.
Yeah.
I go with what feels best, but I'll still tell people here and there, if like a very acute injury, like it just happened, sometimes that's a good thing. I still will tell people that, but also, like, say someone twists their ankle, I'll do the voodoo floss.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this before, I think, wrapping it really tight to create a
Mhm.
blood restricted area, and then you pump through the range. You really want movement to happen. That's optimal. If we can have somebody with a acutely, I had a athlete for Skyview, he twisted his ankle at the meet, and we did this right away, and it definitely helped quite a bit. And so I told him
Yeah.
to do it regularly. You have to do it regular, like, at least 4 times a day. If you do it once in a while, it doesn't help. But if you get the wrap on it, you get motion going. And then also, if I do something like my red light therapy, which is around here somewhere,
Yeah.
I'll put the red light on it too. Those kind of things are just like a much better option than putting ibuprofen on there, which we'd love to talk about as well, which is
Yeah.
it's a major problem because so many people are so used to taking it. And I just think that there's so many better options now that we don't need to be doing it. But since we're so used to doing it, that's kind of what happens. So people just
Yeah.
continually do it still. So, yeah.
Well, when I was doing heavy training and I was sore all the time when I was doing Olympic powerlifting, I was taking NSAIDs all the time until I started learning how they can disrupt hormone levels in your liver, have gut issues, but then especially, and I haven't dived as deep as I want to, but the inhibition of muscle protein synthesis. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's the opposite of what I want if I'm trying to get stronger and get more muscle,
Right.
So, and so what I started doing was I researched, what are anti-inflammatory herbs and things that I can do with my food, and I just started shaving up a whole bunch of raw ginger and turmeric and even lemon and apple cider vinegar and having that in my water until I realized the acidity might, erode my tooth enamel. But I
Okay. Yeah.
still have the ginger and the turmeric, and that really helped a lot as far as it didn't get rid of total pain, but it diminished it a little bit. But the more I think about it, and the more I research, and the more I talk with people like you, inflammation can be a good thing versus chronic or acute and everything like that.
Right. Yeah, you want to create this environment for the cell and the body to heal as best you can. And a lot of times, like, if for inflammation, a lot of us are taking too many things that cause inflammation in our body, too many processed foods, too much sugar, all these white refined sugar, all these grains that aren't really very healthy for our body, creates more inflammation just in general in our body. And inflammation is a killer, guys.
Yeah.
It really affects all sorts of things, all sorts of disease process. A lot of it is rooted in some sort of inflammation. So you got to clean up your diet. So, like, sometimes we think sometimes we think like we get away from like, oh, a pill, like Ed said, but we still have the same mentality to, oh, I'm going to do an herb or a pill to, or a food to actually make that shift. When actually it's like, well, what are we doing in our environment? Are we creating good things for our healthy gut to create a better environment for our body to have a good cellular response to it so it doesn't over amp it up? And that's typically what happens when things get really swollen and irritated and that kind of thing. So can we calm that down and get to the point where the body has a good healthy response? Because you do want enough inflammation for the body to attack that area of where it's irritated, but then build it back up. And that's what happens with ibuprofen, where it's actually limiting the ability for the prostaglandins. It's a part of the chemical cascade that happens in cellular healing, and that part actually gets inhibited. And so what's great about ibuprofen in one way is that you feel better, right? So a lot of people, it'll calm down that fire, but it doesn't let the body really build up again. And so, like you said, the collagen synthesis, type 1 collagen, or, all those different, I don't know all the details of it, but really it's about trying to build that cycle up. And we're limiting that ability. So, like, for example, when I'm doing, over here, our soft wave over there, hello, say hi. That we're trying to produce a cellular response to get the body's own immune response to help heal that area with cellular growth factors and stem cells, and it needs that environment to be provoked to work. But if you take ibuprofen, it actually inhibits that ability for that body to do that. So we want to kind of groove you in the right way to get the whole body to move better, and to help that healing cascade occur
Yeah.
naturally as best we can. And so that's kind of what we're looking into more, telling people after treatment here, don't do ibuprofen. There's other things you can do if you're in a lot of pain, but also doing things like, voodoo floss, red light therapy. Those
Yeah.
kind of things are a lot better options for us to help things out. There's also the what is it, the copper, there's different peptides as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
and we could get all into the peptide stuff, but there's a lot of cellular healing processes. Yeah, it's a little more in a cost, but it's going to be a holistic body thing that helps your gut, helps your body heal better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'll go into this with people. If they really want, most people want a better healing process that is long term. It's not just a short term.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I love that, and that's getting more into what I'm passionate about with nutrition, also, because I deal with a lot of clients in my coaching program that are suffering autoimmune disorders, and a lot of times, that's gut issues and inflammatory issues, and so the very first thing I'll tell people is to help resolve that. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I can't, and I'm not a dietitian or nutrition coach, so I can't say you have to eat this in this schedule, but I like to educate, and one of my favorite go-tos is an anti-inflammatory diet, which is basically whole foods, just
yeah,
eat real food. Don't eat
right,
food-like substances come
right,
from a box.
right.
And, a lot of, one of my favorite doctors on this subject. He's a functional nutritionist doctor, and Dr. Mark Hyman. He says that food is information. And so, like, your body is being sent this information. Are you being sent good information? Are you being sent, malware, so to speak? But a lot of times, if we're eating a lot of sugary things, that's naturally, like you were saying, it's inflammatory. So we can have a high amount of inflammation already, which is bad for our health and sends us into disease. Or we can lower our inflammation through our diet naturally, and then when the inflammation needs to happen, then we heal faster.
Right, and it's just about trying to get your body to balance out. And like it's a lot of times addition by subtraction, right? So just keep it simple, right? And sometimes simple ain't easy though, right?
That's
Because
true.
it's easy to get your little peanut butter cups at night, or your ice cream or whatever. And I realize how much sometimes that's a habit. Like every night, we'll grab
Yeah.
something. It's like, oh shoot, especially when you're in injury mode, you got to clean it up a bit. And you
Yeah.
got to be very focused on like, okay, this is affecting me. A lot of times we just don't make that connection that actually when you are taking these extra things, and a little's okay, but like when you're injured, you should be a little more doubling down on a really clean diet the best you can, right? Eating those
Yeah.
whole foods, and also knowing your food sensitivities, what things might flare you up. but get rid of the drinking if you're drinking a lot, or sugars,
Yeah.
refined foods. Like if you just did that in itself, that's a big win. And then
Yeah.
you look at anything else, other enhancers like I've been mentioning, great, you can add those and fold them in. But like if you're taking a BPC 157 and then you're eating ice cream every night, are you helping yourself? You still might, right? So that it's a very powerful compound. It's really interesting stuff. But basically, are you able to put everything in the order that you can that helps your body heal when you're in that stage when your body's in an injured state and needs to recover, or when you're trying to train up and get stronger, you need to give your body the fuel. Everything that you come in, like you said, it's information. Your body's going to have to use what it has for raw materials, and if you don't have the right stuff, it's pretty important. So that's
Yeah.
great. Yep.
So was that list of numbers or letters rather one of the peptides that you were going to be talking about?
Yeah, so I've learned about it a little bit. It's called BPC 157. It's been mentioned on a lot of health podcasts, and I would just encourage folks to learn more about it. But I've had an anecdotal improvement with some of the things I've had. I had a chronic a knee thing that flared up from doing too much running. And one weekend, I was ramping up to like 6 or 7 miles. I did like a 13 one day. It's like, God, it
Wow.
felt so good. But
Yeah.
and then I didn't feel so good. So, but anyway, I kind of was stubbornly not moving well with the things I do, even with the soft wave. It's just kind of like, what the heck's going on? And then I took it for a little while, felt a little bit of a shift, but not a lot. I was like, okay, I tried it, but then I actually decided maybe I just didn't take enough per day. And so I took a little bit more per day. So instead of one pill a day, I took two capsules a day. And then definitely within that week, I shifted dramatically. It was like, wow, this is really cool. So that's kind of my anecdotal learning, but like just reading more about it, it's a natural compound your body produces, and sometimes it actually helps with gut health, mostly as well.
Right
So
on.
I found it to be helpful for those kind of things. So it's worth looking into. I never say, like you said, I don't tell anybody outrightly, but these kind of things are available, and we might as well, take a look. And if you're open-minded enough to like research it and then decide if it's right and safe for you, I would consult
Yeah.
with any person. If you have a doctor, if you have somebody who's read up on it. But generally, it's pretty darn safe. It's going to be something you can try. The worst that could probably happen is that you just don't feel any different, but
Yeah.
probably you're going to feel a lot better. So it's something where way better option than ibuprofen, but way more in terms of costs, right? But
Yeah.
what you pay for. But something, if especially those folks who might be stubbornly not getting the shift that I'd like to see, I still go over the inflammation, anti-inflammatory diet stuff before, and also good. Hey, what's going on with your sleep cycle? Are you stressed?
Yeah.
Are you in control? I want that to be the main thing I focus on first. So there
Yeah.
are these enhancing things, but sometimes people get drawn to the pill, right? Like
Yeah.
we're the fast food culture. So
Yeah.
like if you
Exactly.
give me something now and I can just feel better, great. People like to cut the line and try
Yeah.
and good for them if you're trying to do that. But you don't want to be, let's say, the compounds take you, 2 steps forward, and you're putting yourself 1 or 2 steps back with every other bad choice you're making.
Yeah.
And then, also another thing that's super paramount, instead of instead of people thinking diet all the time, it's so important. But also, I try to get myself thinking about light in an environment, get
Yeah.
away from the electromagnetic frequencies that are constantly bombarding us. I'm in here. I'm on a podcast. I realize I'm a little hypocritical here that I'm in an environment where Wi-Fi rays are going around me and all these different EMFs are happening. But I also know I need to get myself barefoot every
Yeah.
morning, and I need to see the sun. That sets my clock. It helps me set up into a good mode. And
Yeah.
actually, literal electronic. So the science of grounding and earthing is actually pretty
Yeah.
fascinating. You put your bare foot on the earth, and we've talked about this before,
Yeah.
but how that is an anti-inflammatory itself, that the earth that can actually in itself be an anti-inflammatory. And I love that. And it's as cheap as can be. Instead of thinking about we have to buy this and do this, buy a red light device, buy BPC, whatever, buy all these maybe copper peptides that are out there with topical. There's topical things. There's all sorts of things. And great, but if you don't do the basics, you're not getting to the root of what you probably need to be doing.
Yeah.
So, and actually it's cheaper. And
Yeah.
so, the cheapest things are in nature, so we can take advantage of those.
Absolutely, it's a definite mindset shift. I used to just think if I just worked harder, I'd be better. But the lesson that I learned in working as hard as I could, I was doing P90X 4 or 5 times a week. I was running 6 miles a day, and I gained so much weight. I got up to 300 pounds trying to lose weight by doing that. And I might have told this story before, but it wasn't until I hired coaches, where I'm in the position of now, they were telling me to work less, change up my diet. I thought I was eating right. I wasn't. My stress level was too high and I wasn't sleeping.
Yeah.
So, no matter what supplements I was taking, which I was taking a lot of supplements at the time, they weren't really doing as much good as I wanted them to because I wasn't sleeping. My stress was so high. And when I just reset my body structure, then the gains really happened. So, and then you and I have something in common I don't think we've talked about before, but I love doing Qigong. And I saw you on social media the other day doing Qigong. It's so amazing. And so you can, have that outside time, barefoot, doing I view it as restful movement. If I have an injury, I'm going to rest sometimes, but it's not going to be sitting on the couch kind of resting, it's going to be, doing the Qigong movements, the Tai Chi, the gentle, slow movements. And then when appropriate load is needed, and then I start moving those pieces. But the mental change and the stress and the cortisol levels go down. And the more you understand anti-inflammatory diets and healing your gut and the stages of healing, because I know at some points, like I was trying to do liver detoxification, but my gut wasn't right. So it was like all the detox kind of stuff would go into the gut and kind of be recycled. So there is an order of certain things that you have to probably see, functional nutritionists and health and wellness specialists. By the way, I want to plug our Health and Wellness Expo coming up soon with your Softwave technology in the middle of my talk. But so that's at the end of September 21st. Come and check out. Dr. Trent's going to be there with some other practitioners of health and wellness, and we're going to have a DEXA van, which is a mobile DEXA scan unit here at Northwest Personal Training. So I'll have more info there. But yeah, the mindset of health and wellness. I saw a meme today that it was kind of like diet and this focusing on what's bad for you and what you do that's bad, almost in like this moralistic kind of way, versus the health and wellness. It's not focusing on what's bad. It's focusing on the good habits that you have. It's focusing on the good nutrition that you are doing. And it's focusing on this way of life that's sustainable. And it's a much more positive spin than the can't and the avoid, which automatically you're stressed out because, I'm a bad person if I have this Reese's Pieces, right?
Yeah,
So,
totally. Yeah, it's just it's a more positive view, and it's a better way to kind of approach things in general. So you're not just like, the feelings that go along with it should be those of optimism and health. And we're all trying our best. And are we ever going to be perfect? No. But can we put as many things as best we can into our advantage and help ourselves as best we can? There's always room for improvement. I never thought of that being something negative. It's just something we're striving to do and wanting to do to get a little better, but understanding that we're very human and we have issues, and that's totally fine. And that's actually part of the deal. And
yeah.
I think of myself as an observer of myself here on earth, and like, hey, you're just doing your best. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if things happen, but just try to get back on the horse and keep
Yeah.
working towards those things. Keep learning, try not to make the same mistake over and over again. So
Yeah.
figure out that what works for you and go with this. But we're learning more knowledge of what helps with inflammation, and it's a lot different than the old way. And we don't want to be stuck in the past with these antiquated notions. So that's why we wanted to have this talk today.
Exactly. And, science isn't static. It moves. So we could be saying something else, 2 years from now.
We could be totally proven wrong. And if that's totally right, I'm jazzed about that. It gives us more understanding of where we're coming from. We go with the available knowledge that we have at the time. And that's what we want to make sure we give you the best information.
Yeah.
So glad to have you talk today, Nick.
Yeah, it was a great talk. I'm going to say this: science is a process. Being human being is a process. So, we're just constantly renewing, regathering. I used to be a pastor and would preach and dissect words and everything. And one of my favorite things was the difference between the Greek version of the word perfect and the Hebrew and Aramaic version of the word perfect. The Greek is without flaw, and the Hebrew Aramaic is wholeness. So there's a big difference in that mindset. So I like wholeness better than I like without flaw, because automatically you're born, you have one limb longer than the other. You're not symmetrical because your liver and your diaphragm are heavier on the side. So forget the without flaw, but I'm whole no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all part of the whole, and we all are all perfect in one
Yeah.
way. Yeah, that's the thing. It's great. So
Exactly.
I love that, Nick.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you for the talk, and we'll have more information on the things that we talked about. And definitely, if you can come down and check out the Health and Wellness Expo with the DEXA van, I'll send all the information to our social media. But if you want more information, definitely message us. Click on that subscribe button and help us out. And if you have friends that like this kind of stuff, show them our videos, and come check us out. Come talk to us at Northwest Personal Training or at Find Yourself Running. We can get all the details for you there.
Awesome. Thanks, so Nick. It's been great talking to you as always. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Trent.
All right.